For millions of people around the world, André Rieu is more than a violinist or conductor. He is a symbol of joy, elegance, and the timeless power of music. For decades, audiences have gathered in concert halls, city squares, and stadiums to experience something that feels increasingly rare in modern life, a moment of pure beauty shared with thousands of strangers. With his trademark white bow tie, warm smile, and unmistakable stage presence, Rieu transformed classical music from something many viewed as distant or intimidating into something welcoming and deeply personal. His concerts became celebrations rather than formal performances, places where people laughed, cried, danced, and remembered why music matters. Yet behind the worldwide success lies a story far richer than ticket sales and standing ovations. It is the story of a boy raised under demanding expectations, a dreamer who challenged traditions, and a man who spent decades carrying the weight of a vision that few people initially understood. His journey was not built on instant success or effortless talent. It was built on patience, persistence, sacrifice, and a belief that great music belongs to everyone. Long before sold-out stadiums and international tours, André Rieu was simply a young boy in Maastricht, trying to find his own voice in a household where music was not merely appreciated, it was expected. Growing up in a house filled with music, André Léon Marie Nicolas Rieu was born on October 1, 1949, in Maastricht, a historic Dutch city known for its beautiful architecture and rich cultural traditions. Music surrounded him from the beginning. His father, Johann Rieu, was a respected conductor who led the local symphony orchestra, and music occupied a central place in family life. In a household with 6 children, discipline and structure were valued highly. Practice sessions were part of daily life, and excellence was treated not as an achievement, but as an expectation. At the age of 4, André was introduced to the violin, an instrument that would eventually define his life. While many children discover hobbies through curiosity and play, André's musical education began with responsibility. He learned early that mastering an instrument required dedication, patience, and countless hours of repetition. His father's standards were high, and approval was rarely given freely. Mistakes were met not with anger but with silence, which could feel even more powerful. Yet within those demanding circumstances, André developed qualities that would later shape his success. He learned perseverance. He learned discipline. Most importantly, he learned that music possessed an emotional power capable of reaching far beyond technical perfection. Even as a child, he sensed that music should make people feel something. That belief would eventually inspire him to challenge many of the traditions that defined the classical music world, discovering a different vision for music. As André grew older, he became increasingly aware of a contradiction that troubled him. He loved classical music deeply, yet many performances felt disconnected from the audience. During concerts conducted by his father and other respected musicians, he often noticed listeners sitting quietly, following strict rules about when to applaud and how to behave. The music itself was magnificent, but the atmosphere could feel formal and distant. To André, it seemed as though invisible walls separated performers from the people who had come to listen. While others accepted those traditions as part of classical culture, he quietly questioned them. Why should beautiful music feel intimidating? Why should audiences worry about etiquette instead of emotion? These questions stayed with him throughout his teenage years. He attended conservatories in Belgium and the Netherlands, studying diligently and developing his technical abilities as a violinist. By his 20s, he had become a skilled musician with a strong educational background. Yet he remained restless. He admired the great composers and orchestras of the past, but he also sensed that something was missing. He dreamed of creating performances where audiences could laugh, cry, and participate freely. At the time, such ideas were considered unconventional. Classical music was expected to maintain a certain formality. André's vision seemed impractical to many people around him, but he refused to let go of it. The dream remained alive, waiting for the right moment to emerge, a risk few people understood. In 1987, André Rieu made a decision that would change the course of his life. Instead of pursuing a conventional career path within established orchestras, he founded his own ensemble. He called it the Johann Strauss Orchestra, named after the legendary composer whose waltzes had enchanted generations. At first, the orchestra consisted of only a small group of musicians, united by a shared belief in André's vision. Their repertoire focused on waltzes, operettas, and melodies that many classical institutions had gradually pushed aside in favor of more serious programming. Critics often dismissed this music as lightweight or overly sentimental. Yet André believed ordinary listeners still loved it. The early years were challenging. Performances were held in modest venues with limited audiences. Financial uncertainty was a constant concern. Many industry professionals viewed the project with skepticism, questioning whether there was any real demand for this style of concert. Reviews were often polite rather than enthusiastic. Words like pleasant and charming were frequently used in ways that suggested the orchestra lacked artistic significance. But André remained determined. He was not trying to impress critics, he was trying to reach people. Every concert reinforced his belief that audiences wanted more than technical brilliance. They wanted connection. They wanted to feel welcomed, rather than judged. Slowly, concert by concert, his unconventional idea began attracting attention from people who felt excluded from traditional classical music settings. Building an audience one concert at a time success did not arrive overnight. The growth of the Johann Strauss Orchestra was gradual, built through years of persistence and countless performances. André developed a unique style that distinguished him from other conductors. He spoke directly to audiences, shared stories about the music, and encouraged a sense of celebration rather than formality. Musicians wore elegant costumes, singers brought theatrical energy to the stage, and performances often felt more like grand cultural events than conventional concerts. Most importantly, André made audiences feel included. Instead of standing above them, he often walked among them while playing his violin, breaking down the barriers that had bothered him since childhood. Word of mouth became his greatest ally. People left concerts eager to tell friends and family about what they had experienced. Attendance steadily increased throughout the late 1980s and early 1990s. Soon, theaters across the Netherlands were filling. Then neighboring countries began taking notice. Germany, Belgium, and Austria embraced the orchestra enthusiastically. What critics had dismissed as overly accessible turned out to be exactly what many listeners were seeking. André had tapped into a desire that much of the classical music establishment had overlooked. People wanted emotional connection as much as artistic excellence. By remaining faithful to that belief, he created a movement that continued gathering momentum with each passing year. The dream that once seemed unrealistic was becoming a reality. The night, everything changed. One of the most significant moments in André Rieu's career came when he returned to Maastricht to perform in the city's famous Vrijthof Square. Surrounded by historic buildings and open skies, the setting perfectly reflected his vision of music as a shared public experience. What began as a local concert gradually evolved into something extraordinary. Thousands of people gathered to hear the orchestra perform beneath the summer stars. The atmosphere felt different from anything André had experienced before. Families attended together. Visitors traveled long distances. People sang, laughed, and occasionally wiped away tears as familiar melodies echoed through the square. Standing before that crowd, André realized that his dream had grown beyond anything he had originally imagined. He was no longer simply presenting concerts, he was creating memories. The annual Maastricht performances soon became a cherished tradition, attracting visitors from around the world. Television broadcasts expanded the audience even further, introducing countless viewers to the orchestra's unique style. For André, the success carried deep emotional significance. The city where he had spent his childhood now served as the stage for the fulfillment of a lifelong vision. It was proof that music could unite people across generations, cultures, and backgrounds. The walls he had wanted to dismantle as a teenager were disappearing. replaced by something warmer, more inclusive, and profoundly human. From Dutch success story to global phenomenon, by the end of the 1990s, André Rieu's reputation had spread far beyond Europe. What had started as a small orchestra became an international sensation. Concerts expanded into larger venues, audiences grew dramatically, and album sales reached remarkable levels. People who had never considered themselves classical music fans suddenly found themselves captivated by the orchestra's performances. André's recordings topped charts in multiple countries, and his tours attracted enormous crowds. The success surprised many observers because it defied conventional industry expectations. He was not following trends or reinventing popular music. Instead, he was reviving melodies that had existed for generations and presenting them with sincerity and warmth. Audiences responded enthusiastically because the experience felt genuine. As the orchestra expanded, so did the scale of its productions. Elaborate stage designs, elegant costumes, talented singers, and skilled musicians combined to create unforgettable spectacles. Yet beneath the grandeur remained the same simple philosophy that had guided André from the beginning: music should be for everyone. That principle resonated across cultures and continents. The little orchestra, founded in 1987, had become a worldwide phenomenon, and André Rieu had established himself as one of the most recognizable figures in modern classical music. Still, even as his public success soared, the demands of maintaining such an extraordinary enterprise were beginning to create challenges that would shape the next chapter of his story. The hidden cost of worldwide success. As André Rieu's popularity grew across continents, the demands placed upon him increased just as rapidly. What audiences saw was a man smiling beneath stage lights, leading thousands through an evening of unforgettable music. What they did not see were the countless hours spent traveling, planning, rehearsing, and managing one of the most ambitious touring productions in the world. The Johann Strauss Orchestra evolved from a small ensemble into a massive organization involving musicians, singers, technicians, designers, and support staff. Coordinating performances across multiple countries became a year-round responsibility. At its peak, the orchestra's schedule included more than 100 concerts annually, often requiring constant movement between cities and continents. While the success was extraordinary, maintaining it demanded enormous personal sacrifice. Life on the road meant missing family moments, celebrations, and the simple routines that give balance to everyday life. There were hotel rooms that blurred together, long flights that seemed endless, and periods when home felt more like a destination than a place of belonging. André rarely complained publicly because he understood how fortunate he was to do work he loved. Yet beneath the applause existed a quieter reality. Every sold-out performance carried an unseen price. The dream he had spent decades building was flourishing beyond imagination, but sustaining that dream required energy, time, and personal sacrifices that audiences rarely considered. Success had opened doors around the world, yet it also created challenges that no amount of applause could completely erase. Marjorie, the woman behind the dream. Long before André became an international star, there was Marjorie. Their story began in Maastricht, where they met as young people and built a relationship grounded in trust, loyalty, and shared belief. They married in 1975, years before the Johann Strauss Orchestra existed, when André was still trying to establish himself as a musician. During those uncertain years, Marjorie became far more than a supportive spouse. She became an essential partner in every sense of the word. While André focused on artistic ideas, Marjorie handled practical realities. She helped manage finances, organized business operations, and provided stability during periods when success seemed far from guaranteed. When the orchestra was founded in 1987, her role became even more important. Many people saw André standing on stage, but few realized how much of the organization's foundation rested upon her efforts behind the scenes. Together they raised 2 sons while navigating the challenges of a growing international enterprise. As the orchestra expanded, Marjorie often carried responsibilities that allowed André to focus on performance and creativity. Friends and colleagues frequently remarked that the orchestra's success could not be separated from her contribution. She believed in the vision during years when others doubted it. More importantly, she remained steady when circumstances became difficult. Their partnership became one of the most enduring aspects of André's story, demonstrating that behind many public achievements lies someone whose support makes those achievements possible. In many ways, Marjorie was not standing behind the dream, she was helping carry it. Family life in the shadow of the road. The growth of the Johann Strauss Orchestra brought opportunities that few musicians ever experience, but it also placed tremendous pressure on family life. André and Marjorie's sons, Pierre and Marc, grew up watching their father's career expand from local performances to international tours. While they were proud of his achievements, they also experienced the realities of having a parent whose profession required constant travel. There were periods when André spent months away from home, moving from one city to another while audiences around the world celebrated his performances. Like many people dedicated to ambitious careers, he often found himself balancing professional commitments against personal responsibilities. The conflict was rarely dramatic. Instead, it appeared in small moments: the birthdays missed, the family dinners postponed, the conversations shortened by travel schedules. Over time, André began recognizing how much those absences mattered. He understood that while he was giving audiences unforgettable experiences, the people closest to him were sometimes receiving only the remaining fragments of his time and energy. Fortunately, the strength of his family helped bridge those distances. Marjorie provided consistency, and both sons eventually became involved in the organization themselves. Yet the experience left André with a deeper understanding of success. Achievement, he realized, is not measured solely by public recognition. It is also measured by relationships, presence, and the people who remain beside you when the lights go out and the applause fades. That lesson became increasingly important as he entered later stages of life. When the body begins keeping score, for decades, André approached performing with remarkable commitment. Whether he was conducting before a few hundred people or tens of thousands, he brought the same energy and enthusiasm to every concert. Yet the human body has limits, and years of relentless touring eventually began to leave their mark. Long flights, demanding schedules, and countless hours standing with a violin placed enormous strain on his physical health. One of the most significant warnings came in 2009, when exhaustion forced him to step back temporarily during preparations for important performances. The incident served as a reminder that determination alone cannot override physical reality forever. As he entered his 60s, additional challenges emerged. Chronic back pain became a persistent issue. Years of performing affected his shoulders, joints, and overall mobility. Simple actions that once required no thought sometimes demanded careful planning. Treatment, therapy, and medical guidance became regular parts of life. Yet what impressed colleagues most was André's refusal to allow those difficulties to diminish the experience he provided audiences. He adapted rather than surrendered. He adjusted techniques, managed his schedule more carefully, and continued performing whenever possible. The resilience he displayed reflected lessons learned during childhood. Discipline, patience, and persistence had been woven into his character from an early age. While physical challenges became unavoidable, they also encouraged him to reevaluate priorities. Health was no longer something that could be taken for granted. It had become something that required attention, respect, and balance if he hoped to continue sharing music with the world. Learning to slow down without stopping. For much of his life, André Rieu operated at a pace that left little room for stillness. His calendar was filled years in advance, and every season seemed to bring another series of concerts, recordings, or international appearances. Eventually, however, experience taught him that constant motion was neither sustainable nor necessary. As he moved through his late 60s and early 70s, he began making deliberate changes. The goal was not retirement. music remained central to his identity. Instead, he sought a healthier balance between performance and personal life. Tour schedules became more selective, time at home became more valuable. Rather than measuring success by the number of concerts performed, he increasingly measured it by the quality of life surrounding those concerts. This shift allowed him to reconnect with aspects of life that years of travel had often overshadowed. He spent more time in Maastricht, the city that had shaped his earliest memories. He enjoyed quieter moments with family and appreciated routines that once seemed impossible. Colleagues noticed the difference. There was still ambition, still enthusiasm, but there was also a greater sense of perspective. André had spent decades proving that music could bring people together. Now he was learning another lesson. Fulfillment requires more than achievement. It requires time to appreciate what has already been built. Slowing down did not diminish his passion for music. Instead, it gave him the opportunity to enjoy the life that passion had created. Returning to what matters most. One of the most meaningful developments in André's later years was a renewed appreciation for the people who had supported him throughout his journey. Success has a way of drawing attention toward future goals, leaving little time to reflect on those who helped make those goals possible. As André spent more time at home, he found himself looking at his life from a different perspective. The orchestra remained important, but so did the relationships that had sustained him for decades. His appreciation for Marjorie deepened even further. He often acknowledged the role she played not only in the organization's success but also in the stability of their family. Their partnership had survived challenges that might have overwhelmed many couples. Together they had navigated uncertainty, rapid growth, and the pressures of international success. Their sons had grown into capable adults who contributed to the organization in meaningful ways, ensuring continuity for the future. These developments provided André with something that public recognition never fully could: peace of mind. The empire he had built was no longer dependent solely upon his daily involvement. Trusted family members and colleagues were helping guide it forward. That realization allowed him to focus less on maintaining success and more on appreciating it. In many ways, the later chapters of his life became a homecoming, not a withdrawal from music, but a return to the relationships and values that had supported him from the very beginning. A legacy measured beyond numbers. Today, André Rieu's legacy extends far beyond album sales, financial success, or attendance records. Those accomplishments are impressive, but they represent only part of the story. His greatest achievement may be the way he changed people's relationship with classical music. For generations, many viewed the genre as something reserved for specialists, scholars, or devoted enthusiasts. André challenged that perception. He demonstrated that great music can be welcoming without losing its artistic value. His concerts invited people to participate emotionally rather than observe from a distance. Through that approach, he introduced countless individuals to music they might otherwise never have explored. His influence can also be seen in educational initiatives that help young people gain access to instruments and musical opportunities. By supporting music education, he has worked to ensure that future generations can experience the same transformative power that shaped his own life. Perhaps most importantly, André's story offers a reminder that success is rarely the result of talent alone. It grows from perseverance, belief, relationships, and the willingness to remain true to a vision even when others fail to understand it. The boy who once struggled beneath expectations became a man who opened doors for millions. His legacy is not simply that he performed beautiful music, it is that he helped people feel that the music belonged to them. The enduring gift of André Rieu. As André Rieu continues to perform in his later years, audiences still respond with the same enthusiasm that first propelled him to international fame. They come not only for the music but for the feeling his concerts create, a sense of connection, celebration, and shared humanity. His journey has been filled with triumphs, challenges, sacrifices, and lessons learned over a lifetime. He experienced the pressures of expectation, the risks of pursuing an unconventional dream, the demands of worldwide success, and the physical realities that accompany decades of performance. Through it all, he remained guided by a simple belief: music should bring people together. That belief transformed his life and touched millions of others. Looking back, it becomes clear that André Rieu's greatest contribution was not merely reviving the popularity of the waltz or building one of the world's most successful touring orchestras. It was reminding people that beauty is not reserved for a select few. It belongs to everyone willing to listen. His story encourages us to value passion, appreciate the people who support us, and never underestimate the power of bringing joy into the lives of others. Long after the final concert ends and the last note fades into silence, that message will continue to resonate. It is a legacy built not only on music, but on the enduring belief that art, at its best, has the power to unite us all.